We are going to be looking at some creepy videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video.
No filter, you guys. This stunning Itanelli wig is custom made to perfection.
The woman you just saw in that video recently killed two young girls and their mother while they were walking down the street in New York City after crashing into them with her car. This is Miriam Yerimi. And since August of 2023, Miriam had racked up 20 speed camera tickets and 5 red light camera tickets in New York City. And actually, at the time of this crash, Miriam's driver's license had already been suspended, so she wasn't supposed to be driving. Now, Miriam herself, the driver of the vehicle, actually won $2 million in the past after she had filed a sexual abuse lawsuit against the NYPD. And in October of 2024, the NYPD actually showed up at her home to do a psych evaluation. And in January of this year, she threatened to sue them again for $5 million. It's unknown exactly what caused the crash at this point, but last Saturday, Miriam plowed into that Uber driver. And like I said, this was a huge crash, and she ended up plowing through a group of individuals, including a family that was on its way home from the synagogue. So the crash actually killed a 35-year-old mother named Natasha Sada and her 2 daughters, Diana and Deborah, who were 5 and 7 years old. Absolutely tragic. And sadly, Philip, Natasha's 4-year-old son, was gravely injured in the crash as well. In total, there were 9 people injured in this. And Miriam definitely should not have been on the road after all those violations and having had a suspended license at the time of the crash. This story is just absolutely unbelievable, and it always seems like it's other people on the road that you have to watch out for, especially when you've got people like Miriam behind the wheel.
That video came from the Paranormal Files, and I've been meaning to talk about this one for quite some time because this one is absolutely horrific all the way around. A young mother and 2 of her children lost their lives after Miriam, at high speed, slammed into a car, and that car slammed into them as they were walking. Now, like I said, I always wanted to cover this story, but I was not paying complete attention to it. I always thought Miriam was high or drunk when she slammed into this other car, but come to find out that was not the case. Alcohol nor drugs played a factor in this crash. I was also not aware of the NYPD part of the story either. Miriam said that when she was a teenager, she was groomed and assaulted sexually by the NYPD. And the city, they must have found something because they awarded Miriam $2 million. That's what they settled with. Here's where the story becomes even more bizarre, is the fact that after this lawsuit, the NYPD kept returning to her home, giving her psych evaluations for whatever reason, to the point that she was going to sue them again for $5 million. And then this horrific event occurred.
Going anywhere. This is my bed. You barged into my home without my knowledge, without a warrant, without even a reason to why you're here, without a validating excuse as to what the phone call was even about.
Come on, get out of bed.
Look.
Are you in the structure?
Look, I'm not even resisting. Look.
The reason why they took her away happens to be because an ex called police telling them that she was going to end herself. After the crash, Miriam told medics that she was possessed and claimed the CIA had been following her, according to law enforcement sources. And also after the crash, Miriam repeatedly told police at the hospital that she wanted to use a regular bathroom, not a pan, and asked for her phone. She was quoted as saying, "People are out to get me. I need a CT scan of my entire body. F you, I need a whole workup to get whatever is in my body out of it. I did not hurt anyone. All the evidence is on my phone." She was also quoted as saying that she was possessed and had the devil inside her. That day, she was given another psych evaluation at another hospital. There are absolutely no excuses for what she had done, given the fact that she also has a record of reckless driving. The true victims here are the mother and the 2 children, and I think there was a 3rd child that was critically injured, and the father and husband that no longer has his family. The mother who lost her life, her name was Natasha Sada. I just find the whole NYPD part of this to be very bizarre. Why do they keep going to her home, giving her a psych evaluations test, given the fact that she already won a lawsuit against them? We do know that the NYPD, they are very, very corrupt. So what was the NYPD truly doing? And given the fact that they were bothering this woman ever since she was a teenager, this really does have the smell of MK Ultra written all over it. This first creepy video comes from the Supernatural Sleuth on TikTok.
If you ever seen a demon manifest as a kid, you're about to.
In the 25 plus years I've been doing paranormal investigations, the one thing that bothers me the most is this. I never have, nor will I ever believe that children remain here on earth as ghosts, ever. They go to God. But when you see things like this right here, and I'll show you in just a moment, this is straight out of hell. I don't have a lot of backstory about this picture. I think this was taken somewhere in Appalachia, and at a glance, it looks just like a little boy. But if you look closer, and I'm going to zoom in for you more, you can tell this isn't a little boy at all. I have another picture too where it's been enhanced, but look at the face. That's the thing. Whenever demons try to manifest as a person, as a human, something will always be wrong. It will be off every time. We are made in the image of God, and they cannot completely and fully manifest as a human without something being terribly wrong. Check out the face. This is 110% a demon. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have any kind of paranormal evidence you would like to share, my email is listed in my bio. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. God bless.
Not everything has to be a ghost, and taking a look at this supposed boy's face, it kind of reminds me of demon face syndrome. Remember the examples they used of demon face syndrome? Yeah, it kind of looks very similar to that. Not saying this is what it is, I'm just saying it looks similar. And that begs the question, whatever happened to demon face syndrome? It seemed like one day out of the blue, randomly in 2024, all these news agencies at one time were reminding us that this condition exists where people see demons, which I always thought was kind of odd because the man they used in that story had that condition in 2020. 2021, 2022, 2023, nobody was talking about it. And then, like I said, in 2024, 1 month prior to the April 8th solar eclipse, here comes all these news agencies telling us, reminding us that demon face syndrome exists. Another thing that came to my mind when I took a look at this photo are those cryptids, the black-eyed kids. If you do not know who the black-eyed kids are, they are children that will approach your car or they will approach your home asking to be let in, either asking for a ride or to use your phone. But anybody that's said to have encountered these black-eyed kids experience a terrible sense of dread and fear. They refuse to let them in, and these kids become very violent, and upon taking a look at their face, their eyes are jet black. Matter of fact, I think I did a top 5 scariest cryptids on my other channel, and I believe I put the black-eyed kids as number 3 or number 2, just due to the personal stories that have come out of people that have encountered them.
Now the photo you see behind me is from a leaked case file with 2 people who were only ever identified as Chester and Kellyanne M. They're a very normal couple. They were married in 2012, but the incident reports about their home started coming in as early as 2015. There's like no strange history about this place. The only thing we know are those incident reports about the HVAC system. But the reason any of it's relevant links back to this picture that they took during the time of their complaints. See, the incident reports have been about the HVAC system, the vent system, and specifically things heard and seen in the crawl spaces. After the couple had both gone missing in early 2016, this was a photo that was recovered, and if you look to the background, you'll see what's wrong. From the picture they took, although it's inconclusive, many people believe this is a person who was hiding in their crawl space before they went missing. Enhanced photos only furthered suspicion.
That video is from Silas Dan, and these stories are just way too frequent for my liking. There was a story that came out where a little girl told her babysitter there was a monster under her bed. The babysitter went to go look, and come to find out, there was a full-grown man lying under there. But that face right there is pure nightmare fuel given the context.
Reddit user Notel is alone at his aunt's house when something really creepy is caught on camera. Notel writes, "Tell me I'm not the only one who sees it. I'm house sitting for my aunt, who is out of town, and I'm kind of freaking out right now." This is what he caught.
I don't know if I'm seeing or tripping, but check this out. So this is my aunt's son's room, right? There's no one in here. Right? Nothing. Closet. Get a nanny camera in here. Alright, now tell me, right on the monitor here, tell me that doesn't look like someone standing in the room. Like, like I've checked, like, went back and forth 3 times, and so, okay, nothing, right? Like, what?
There definitely seems to be some kind of hooded figure standing there, and I thought maybe it was an optical illusion or something casting a shadow, but I just can't see it.
Because it's very spiritual what we do as actors. You're on the set, you have your chakras all open, you're allowing this character to use your body as a vessel. And so you have to learn how to flip the switch on and flip it off. Otherwise, it could drive you mad.
I mean, because it's spiritual what we do. You understand?
Yeah.
We allow these characters and these stories to use our bodies as a vessel. That is a real, like, if you think about it, that's you allowing this other energy.
Project. I let the character speak to me. What we do as actors is very spiritual. You're on set, and that's why I don't pick a lot of roles, because it's spiritual, and I'm all alive, and I'm open, and my chakras are open, and I'm letting this character use my body as a vessel to tell its truth. And so when I'm open like that, a lot of energies can't be around me. I'm sorry, because energy is strong, y'all, and you gotta be particular about who you keep around you. Like, seriously, if they down and they cloudy and they downtrodden, and if they got a cloud around you, hanging around, you think you're not gonna get wet? You gotta be very careful. So I'm very particular about the projects that I take on, because that's spirit. You understand? But
at the end of the day, for me, it was a lot of ancestry work. Blood work is what I call it, when you really have to lean on them. And there were times where, you know, the surrendering is so deep that I felt like I just had to truly listen to the ancestors and all of their cries and their woes and everything that they've been through, so that I could honor that.
If you are tapping into the spiritual realm, and if you are not seeking Jesus, speaking the Holy Spirit, you're tapping into something demonic. Because let me just put it like this, and they were very open about it. They were very open about it. But let me put it like this. If you're creating a project, in this circumstance, let's just, you know, call it what it is. If you're making a movie that is not glorifying God, but is sheerly for entertainment, and if you're tapping into the spiritual realm to create that movie that has nothing to do with God, but is just to entertain people, to sell tickets, to get people in those seats so that you can make revenue and profit, that is demonic. You sitting here telling me that you're allowing these quote unquote characters to enter you and use you as a vessel? For what purpose? The only one that should be allowed into our bodies to use us as a vessel is a Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit. The one that knows no evil, but only knows good and righteousness. Let me know what y'all think. Get in my comments, like this video. I'm out, y'all.
That video came from Nick Von Jones. We hear this time and time again when it comes from Hollywood, that, and it's not just Hollywood either, also musicians, that they let these things take over them, these spirits, these entities, and this what allows them to perform better. We heard this from Will Smith. We heard this from Beyonce. When Beyonce said when she's on stage, this entity called Sasha Fierce takes her over. Nicki Minaj said that a entity called Roman takes her over. Lady Gaga and so forth. They all say that these spirits take them over.
Roman is a crazy boy who lives in me, and he says the things that I don't want to say. He was born, just a few months ago. He was conceived in rage. So he bashes everyone. He wants to be blamed. I don't want to blame him. I ask him to leave, but he can't. He's here for a reason. People have brought him out. Now he won't leave.
This reminds me of Morgan Wallen and SNL. Now, I'm not a Morgan Wallen fan, nor do I listen to his music, but people were upset with him because he left SNL early right before the credits had ended. After he had left, he made an Instagram post saying, "Get me back to God's country." People were saying that he was ungrateful because SNL gave him a platform to promote his music. And upon looking at his face, it looked like he really wanted to get out of there. And some people are suggesting that he may have saw something, or they wanted him to do something in order to promote his music on SNL. And if you remember, a week or a couple weeks prior to this, there was that Lady Gaga skit where it was all about demonic possession. They were calling upon demons, calling upon this demon Lamashtu, and so forth. Again, it was just a clear satanic ritual, and SNL has been known for things like this. And it's not just Hollywood or the music industry, it's also other forms of entertainment as well. Video games, and especially sports. This creepy video comes from You Won't Believe Me Official on TikTok.
This is the most demonic thing I have ever seen taken place at any sporting event in my entire life. What you're looking at is a demon being summoned in the crowd on top of a satanic pentagram, and there's even demonic chants on the banners below the crowd. What you're looking at is a home game of FC Kaiserslautern, also known as FCK, and they're doing a pre-game ritual, and what you're going to see here is that people are holding up signs, and it creates a satanic pentagram. And as time goes on, you can see the person shifting the camera. On the other side, I believe those words say invincible forever. But then slowly there's a demon that's going to arise. Now, if you look at the bottom, the banners here, they say words in Latin. And if we translate them, let's see what it says. Exaudi nos Lucifer et surge ex abyss sume nimas nostra. Oh my gosh, this says, "Hear us, O Lucifer, and rise from the abyss, take our souls." What the heck? Now they actually say something else as Lucifer is slowly spawning from the crowd. It says, "Ad lucem nos Lucifer, et surge ex abysso sume animas nostras." Jesus, forgive me for even saying this, but it says, "To light us, O star, and arise from the abyss, take our souls." What the heck? I mean, I don't care if their mascot is like a devil or something, whatever the heck it is. This is the weirdest thing I have ever seen. There's got to be some evil energy going on in this game.
Now, there are those in the comment sections of these videos that are saying that the opposing team did this to scare the other team. And even if that's true, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's movies, music, video games, almost all forms of entertainment are corrupt in a way. Sports is definitely not the exception. I mean, just take a look at these ritualistic halftime shows. When it comes to the Chris Watts case, a man who ended the life of his wife and his daughters and their unborn child, I actually mentioned this case in another video. I'll never find this strange coincidence to be weird. This video comes from Bobby Curtis Lee on TikTok.
Holy. You guys have seen this video of Chris Watts, right? Most of us in the true crime community are already familiar with it, and everyone always points out the fact that the TV behind Chris is playing a commercial depicting an unborn baby inside of the womb. Chris then looks over at the cop and mentions that his missing wife, who we all know he unalived, is also pregnant, and says that she's about 14 or 15 weeks along. Almost like him watching that little clip sparked that reminder in his dumb head. But did anyone else catch what shows up after that? It's an oil spill. It literally looks like oil with a skull in it. That commercial is actually from American Horror Stories Apocalypse, and this to me just solidifies my belief in the afterlife so hard. Because you can't tell me that Shanann isn't in this room right now with this man who took her life, her precious daughter's lives, and her unborn baby's life. She just has to be conjuring this all up as her sleazeball of a husband is being questioned by police about the whereabouts of his entire family. She is literally screaming through the TV, "We're in here, come find my babies."
Just the fact that you can see a baby in its womb, and then right after that, you can see a woman next to a child buried in an oil field, for that commercial to play and it to play out very similar to the Chris Watts case, is just so astronomically rare that other factors had to have been at play here. Another strange coincidence about this case is that Shanann, his wife, wanted to name the unborn baby boy Nico Lee, and the mistress, Chris Watts' mistress, was named Nicole. Something about this case, even after all this time, all these years, Something about this case just feels so off. Even some people suggest that this whole thing was a CIA psyop, or, you know, some other theories that are floating out there that do start to make sense once you see just how odd just everything happens to be about this case. This next creepy video comes from the Paranormal Chick on TikTok.
A terrifying encounter that I have to share with you, and I'm actually going to read the witness's account word for word. Listen to what she has to say and tell me what you think. This past summer, we purchased a 30-year-old home on 10 acres in a farm country on the Michigan-Ohio border. The house was built by a man who sold it to us, and he lived there with his wife until they got too old to maintain it. Alongside of our property, marking our property line, is an old dirt road that's long been abandoned, is now overgrown with trees. We call it the lane, and it's a highway for animals and my 3 preteens, who were immediately drawn to the trees. Within the first couple of weeks, my 2 youngest and a friend of theirs experienced something that frightened them, and now the kids don't go out after dusk. My husband, who has planned on using the lane to hunt, is now nervous about his evening hunts. This is what happened, and as best as I can describe it from my daughter's point of view. The 3 girls went out to walk the lane in the dark. They each had a cell phone and were using the flashlights on them to guide their steps. About halfway down the lane, my oldest daughter, I'll call her E, suddenly felt heavy and scared. She said she felt like she couldn't go any further, or shouldn't go any further. E was walking in front and stopped. She moved her light from the path and upwards and saw a being that stood midway in the path, roughly 30 feet in front of her. She describes it in detail, and I had her draw a picture, which I will attach. It was a form of something human-like, with no head, no hands or feet. She said it was light gray and somewhat translucent. It began moving towards her on the lane, and she described it as a gliding, but then even though she couldn't tell it had something like legs moving, it was almost like a long skirt. The legs were fused together, and it was gliding across the ground while seemingly putting one leg in front of the other. E says she immediately felt like it wanted them to leave, like it was protecting something. But even though she was scared, she said she didn't feel like it wanted to hurt them, just scare them. Her fear made her angry, and she yelled at it, "No, stop, stay back." I was in our backyard at the time, and though I couldn't make out what she was saying, I recognized her tone as very angry, and I thought her and her sister were fighting. I heard the girl screaming and E angrily yelling stuff in the lane. E turned around and pushed one of the other girls back in the opposite direction. The 2 girls behind her recognized that E was very scared and just turned and ran in the dark. They did not know what they were running from, but screamed in fear as E yelled, "Run, it's coming." As one of the girls in front was running, she tripped and fell and lost a shoe. E, who was still behind them, pushing them in a panic, bent down to help the girl up. She says, as she bent down and grabbed the girl's shoe, she looked behind her, again pointing the light in that direction. The entity was now crawling, gliding towards them. It wasn't fast, but this slow movement that never really touched the ground. It was at this time that the entity was witnessed by the girl that had fallen. She states she saw this gray mist, human-like thing bent over. The 3 girls ran out of the trees and didn't turn around until they were almost at the house. They couldn't see it anymore. I'm trying to figure out what this thing was. The idea of it being a ghost seems strange, because the houses here are spread so far apart, and I know no deaths occurred in this house. I wondered if they startled something that was protecting the land. Teens with electronics may have been a surprise to an ancient entity who was not expecting them. I do know that the Shawnee Indians call this area home amongst some other tribes, and there are Indian mounds about 15 miles down the road. My question is, what do you think this is? Is there something we can do, an offering we can make to let it know we mean no harm? My husband thinks making a tobacco offering may be a good idea. And I'm actually planning on buying 7 more acres that currently being farmed and planting native trees and native grasses. So what do you guys think? What did their daughters encounter? Was it some sort of ancient Native American spirit? Was it a ghost? Maybe something else? Comment below and tell me what you think.
All I know is I would be out, and the drawing reminds me of something called The Rake, which I believe is either a creepypasta or it's a cryptid, but that's what this reminds me of. Very, very eerie. This next video comes from Leela Biscuit.
Can I tell you a story that to this day I have no explanation for? I shared a room with my twin sister when we were kids. And growing up, my twin sister had night terrors. She would wake up everyone in the household in the middle of the night by screaming at the top of her lungs. It was very common. She did it all the time. So much so that it was not really an event when she did it. We were just annoyed at her screaming. So when we were about 12, I remember one night, we go to bed. I'm in my bed, she's in her bed. Lights are off, it's the middle of the night, everyone's asleep. And my twin sister starts to scream. We're talking about like a blood-curdling, like top of her lungs scream, not just whimpers, not just a scream like someone's hurting her. That was the norm. And I should just say that every time we asked her why she was screaming, she said she didn't remember whether she had a bad dream, but there were never any details about what the dream was. So on this particular night, we're around 12, we've gone to bed, and I wake up to my twin sister screaming. I'm facing the wall. She's behind me. Now I turned around to do what I always did when my twin sister started screaming. I was going to tell her off, tell her, shut it, zip it, cut it out. When I turned around on that night, I saw a figure standing above her bed, looking down at her. And I was so terrified that I closed my eyes and closed my ears with my hands. And I started screaming too. We both were screaming at the same time. It was madness. My poor mother flew down that hallway. And I grew up in Africa. And during that time, it was quite dangerous. So my mother thought that there were intruders in the house. It's quite common to have people break into your home in certain areas of Africa during certain times. So she's running down the hall. She turns the lights on of our bedroom, and there's no one there. There's no one there. And when she asks what happened, I obviously say, I saw a man standing over Shazzy's bed. And then Shaz says, I saw a man standing over my bed. We both saw him. We have never seen him since, but we both saw him, and he was gone when my mother turned on the lights. And I have no way of explaining this. Let me know if you've experienced something similar or have heard of something like this.
This sounds something very similar to what people encounter when they encounter the Hat Man, an entity that is made of shadow and appears to wear a hat. It stands over people as they sleep. Sometimes the people that sleep have very strong sleep paralysis to the point they can't move, and all they can see is this shadowy entity that sometimes has red eyes.
Got back inside the house. I was putting my daughter on the bus. And I came in, nobody else is here, and I'm hearing something on our basement stair. Stop.
Hello? Hi, we're going to try this again. Knock once if you're friendly, knock twice if you're not. Oh, there, okay. All right. Friendly. Are you from here? Okay. This is the weird part. What do you want? See, this is what's going on. It's weird. I don't understand it. Then it just stops. Nothing here. So I guess it is what it is.